Welcome to the Miller Report. I'm Suzanne Miller, CEO of Empire State Properties and host of the Miller Report. Today's guest has earned his reputation as one of the best political reporters on New York TV. He was a reporter and anchor at New York One, has interviewed people like Hillary and Bill Clinton, Nelson Mandela, and Condoleezza Rice. And now he hosts a radio show right here on WABC. Welcome, Dominic Carter, to the Miller Report.
It is so great, Suzanne, to be here with you. The Miller Report in the area, the city of New York, is hot as can be, and it's so great to be here with you. And I like that multi-million-dollar smile you have going on there.
Well, flattery gets you everywhere. You know, Dominic, you've interviewed so many great leaders and political journalists, and I'm kind of new at this podcast. It's been 8 months, and I'm already at 1,000,008 listeners, but it's still fantastic. And, I mean, you've interviewed presidents, world leaders, local politicians. I mean, Nelson Mandela, for goodness. I work really hard to figure out my best questions. Can you, help me? How do you go about formulating your questions for when you want to interview somebody?
That's a great question, Suzanne. So the first thing that I do is I have one consistent rule, and that is treat people the way you would like to be treated. So no cheap shots. I have a job to do. I have to be ethical. I have to be fair, but no cheap shots. If you say something's off the record and I agree that it's off the record, you don't have to worry about me reporting that.
So you always interview them beforehand. You don't do it how would you know unless it's...
Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to interview beforehand. But it's like you and I were able to talk for a few minutes before we started.
Now on the way to the bathroom?
Yes,
we didn't talk.
Yes. No. But sometimes that's the only amount of time that you'll have with the newsmaker.
Right.
And so sometimes you have to establish the rules with their top political operatives. So, for example, when I did the Michael Bloomberg, Bill Thompson debate for mayor, right? It was the hottest ticket in town.
Wow.
And New York One, they wanted to make sure that I was insulated from everyone. So the producers are out front, and I'm behind the scenes, unreachable, right? So my thing is, before I'm about to quote unquote perform, I like total quiet in a dressing room, and I may listen to something like Madonna. Right, the bigger the event,
you're zoning out.
The more I'm dancing around my dressing room playing Madonna or Jay-Z.
But how do you formulate your questions?
Okay, so that's another great question. So the bigger the interview, the calmer I am. And so when you're sitting down with a politician, you have to understand the rules of the game. Their job is to, almost like a Pac-Man, to eat up all the interview time, basically saying nothing except for their talking points. Your job is to know when to cut them off in a professional, polite way and guide them where you want them to go. So
great advice. Thank you.
So, for example, let's take Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton, right? Mr. Personality himself, right?
Right.
So when I prepare for an interview, a big interview, it's sometimes several days of full-time work. I know what the newsmaker is going to say before they say it. And so I'm not going to let you divert into an area where you're going to talk forever.
How do you know that? Because you're reading about them? Or
you read about them, you Google them, you
it's
watch
like what I'm
interviews.
doing. I'm a pioneer in this, but I spend at least 24 hours. I know a lot about you right now. Okay. So let's move on.
Okay. All right. So let's move on.
So, but just on that one last thing. So who was your most favorite person you interviewed?
Great question. I've been very fortunate throughout my career. I'm almost like the little engine that could, right? So I'm going to answer your question, Suzanne. But in terms of public school education, not the greatest of schools. And so I wasn't supposed to be in the position that I'm in. But it's funny how life works, because with hard work and dedication, anything is possible. And I'm an illustration of that.
Especially immigrants.
So the biggest interview, I've interviewed Vicente Fox, the president of Mexico, and he was very strong-willed. He'd tell you exactly what he think. John Cardinal O'Connor, who was great, the longtime Cardinal of New York. It was a tremendous honor to meet him. But I would have to say, out of so many interviews that I've done, I mean, from Condoleezza Rice, it would have to be Nelson Mandela.
That was what I was going to think.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he's the most famous, and
Yes.
he's the most well-known.
Yes. And, Suzanne, that's the great illustration of the little engine that could. So David Dinkins was the mayor. He had been in office for under a year. Mandela, it's being reported internationally that he's about to be released from prison, right? And so most journalists go, there's no chance in hell. I say to myself, it's time to get going. Find a way. Make it happen. Crazy as hell, meaning me, because I had no way to make it happen. But with determination and persistence, I just kept trying, got through to the Dinkins administration. Next thing I know, I get a call that says, Mr. Mandela is arriving in New York this day. He's doing only 2 interviews. Ted Koppel of Nightline and you, Dominic.
Love it.
And so...
And here you are today at the Miller Report.
And there you go, right? I keep moving up. But Suzanne, let me just tell you this real quick. So, interviewing Mandela, right?
I got to keep you in line. Remember you told me.
Yes. All these State Department security, right? Protecting him. The Mandela Mobile. I mean, it's stopping New York City, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm in Gracie Mansion, and I'm in a room set up waiting for him. There are agents standing outside the room, and my mind started playing games with me, Suzanne. I kid you not, there was a good angel and a bad angel. And the bad angel said, you're kidding yourself. You can't interview Nelson Mandela. You're not qualified to do it. The good angel said, you got this. You can do it. You believe in yourself. And so the angels are competing, and all of a sudden the door twists. And in walks this man with the most beautiful skin I've ever seen in my life. Wow. And he goes, hello, young man. And I go, Mr. Mandela, how are you? And so the same way you and I talked for a second, I had a second to talk to him before we started going live. And I said, Mr. Mandela, can I ask you a question? He said, yes, young man. I said, Mr. Mandela, you don't appear to be angry at all. And you just did 25 years in prison. And all you had to do was renounce and denounce the ANC, and they would have let you out. And he laughed at me. And I learned a good lesson, Suzanne. He said, young man, for me to be angry would be giving my captors all my power, the people that jailed me. And that's when I said, I don't have a right to be angry another day in my life.
I love that. That's such a nice story. I think, Mayor Adams was on the Miller Report. He told a similar story about an angel that he saw with his mom, and she always believed in him. And if you hear his story, it's very similar. So we're going to move on to politics because you are the professional in that. And I got to keep this going.
Caroline Kennedy was also a big interview, but go ahead.
Oh, that's great. So back to politics. Here we are, 2024, a rematch of 2016. Biden and Trump, here we are. In 2016, you were on the record predicting a Trump victory. You're smiling.
Boy,
I know that's true.
You do
I did
know
my
a lot
homework.
about me. Wow.
I did. I mean, you said that Trump's base was very engaged and Hillary Clinton's was not.
Yes, I did.
So how do you see the 2024 election?
Exactly the same way. Trump is headed back to the White House. And the reason why I say that, is because his base is even more excited and energized than ever. And I think even some Democrats, when they're being honest, Suzanne, would have to admit all of these trials is ridiculous. And that all you're doing is exciting his base even more. And just look at the polling.
Making him a victim.
Right. He's a victim, right? And so I predict even stronger this time. I don't even think the fall campaign is going to be that competitive if Mr. Biden stays on the ticket.
Mr. Biden is going to stay on the ticket?
Yes. I don't see him. I'm sure Democrats want him to get out the way. Mm-hmm. I don't see him agreeing to that. I just don't see it. And plus, if he goes, the Democrats have an even larger problem because the vice president's going to say, it's my turn. It's my turn. And she's not going to let somebody just walk in, the governor of California, and I don't think Gavin Newsom is a serious candidate, but she's not just going to let somebody walk in and take her place, which is next, right after Biden.
Depends what they offer her.
What could they offer her outside of the presidency of the United States? I don't see it.
AG.
That's not good enough.
All right, so what do you think the biggest issues are right now for each candidate to overcome?
Well, I think
providing there is some competition, which I think there will be.
I don't see the competition, but
if
okay,
there were.
Because if you look at Michigan, Trump's lead, they've each won Michigan once, Biden and Trump. Trump's lead is expanding. The Democrats have a real problem. They have a real problem. How do you energize a base where Mr. Biden, and I'm stating this objectively, President Biden, the president of the United States, is losing his base as we speak. African Americans and Latinos are turning on him. The reason why that's important, Suzanne, is because just by the margins, just that much of a margin, Mr. Biden, the president, could lose the election.
Well, we're going to see about that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I think yesterday's vote in the Middle East may help him get Michigan, but we're going to get into that.
Okay.
But don't you think that we need somebody younger on the vice president side? I mean, at the end of the day, we have two old people. So do you think this is an opportunity for the Republican Party maybe to bring in a younger candidate as VP? And who do you think that would be?
It may happen, Suzanne, at the end of the day. The Republicans, Mr. Trump, may, just like I predicted that there would not be a primary campaign. And that's exactly what happened. You know, DeSantis was the golden boy, right? Golden boy, supposedly. Wow. He may knock off Trump. Wasn't even competitive. Fell flat on his face. You can go through all of them. So there's a lot of talk that Trump may go with Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, because, and, you know, Nikki Haley, she's now gone. She won't be on the ticket, obviously, because there's bad blood now between her and Trump. It would be a smart move. It would be a brilliant move. And at the end of the day, the name of the game is to win.
Yes.
Is to win. But knowing Trump's personality, knowing him personally, frankly, it's his way or the highway.
Right.
And it's worked for him, period. And he's not going to forgive disloyal people. No. That's just not his nature.
We hope he forgives in New York, but we'll get into that too. So back to what is your guess about who he's going to pick for VP?
You never know. You never know. Ramaswamy, you know, obviously he is dying to be named number 2 under Trump. And Trump's people have said that no, it's not going to be him, that he may be part of the cabinet. You have Tim Scott. You have the governor of South Dakota. And then with Trump, he's not a politician. So he could wake up literally and get a feeling. That's why I don't want to make a prediction.
What do you mean he's not a politician? He's a businessman, but he's also a politician.
Well, now he's a politician with 4 years tenure, having served in the White House. But he's not a traditional politician. You cannot read this guy and you say right, he may go left. And that's just his nature. Now, Mr. Biden is a politician, and he's going to stick with Kamala Harris. And, you know, the troubles for Mr. Biden is that he and Trump are only, 4 years difference in age, right? But Trump is much more vibrant, and he doesn't come across as old, unfortunately, as the president of the United States of America. It's going to be interesting. They're going to fight each other to the death.
It's going to be a very interesting fall.
Yes, very, very.
Let's move on to the Middle East, which everybody's talking about today, and I know that you also are part of that, and we want to really get into this.
Okay.
Firstly, how do you think the United States can support Israel while also protecting these innocent young families in Gaza?
My honest answer, Suzanne, is that Hamas should have thought about that on October 7th. That's how I really feel. Israel has a right, having been to Israel 2 or 3 times and witnessing how tough it is, where the people around you, all you want is peace to live your life. the people of Israel. And at any time, there can be a suicide bomber, a suicide knife attack. We rode, when Giuliani was mayor and we went to Israel, we rode the 18 bus, which the week before had been blown up by terrorists. And let me tell you, Suzanne, when you're on that bus, right, no matter how politically correct you may be, you start racially profiling real quick. Who might this lady have a bomb? Might that young man have a bomb? Might this individual have on a suicide? Remember, they're just going to say something to God, and then boom.
So you really felt it. You're with the people.
You feel it, but here's the first way that you feel it, right? So they started in the military, as you know, Suzanne, in Israel, very, very young. And when you, I think 16, 17, and when you walk up to a bus stop, and this is what happened in my case several times, the gender is not really important, but when you walk up to a bus stop and there's a female Israeli officer standing there with a semi-automatic rifle, it wakes you up real fast. And her job, or at least when I was there, her job was to look for potential terrorists, almost like what we do with at Penn Station, Suzanne, the National Guard that are at Penn Station. But in Israel, they were heavily armed with live bullets ready to go at any given moment because you never know when something would happen. I understand the argument to your question of innocent people have to be protected, but Hamas is famous for surrounding themselves in the innocent people or camouflaging themselves where it's almost impossible to find them.
No, I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm getting at is how are they going to win the PR part of this? Because you keep seeing these babies and heads blown off and people starving and disease and famine, and all these radio stations and TV shows are showing all of this.
Yes.
So they're losing the PR war,
and
they're not. They may have lost America yesterday. I mean, what do you think about that vote? They abstained basically meant that now America's not. What does this practically mean from yesterday's vote?
What that means is that President Biden is afraid of losing the election. That's
Michigan.
That's right. Michigan, the Muslim community in Michigan. All I can tell you is that I understand the politics of all of this, Suzanne, but my heart is with the people of Israel. To be completely honest with you, nobody wants to see innocent people die. Nobody wants to see that. It's a no-win situation. Netanyahu is in a no-win situation. And America has always been a strong ally to Israel. And I just think it should stay that way. But herein lies the problem. When there's an election year and you have the Muslim community, at least 20%, doing a non-committal campaign, where the alarms are going off, we're not going to vote for you. An American politician is going to do anything and everything to win over that vote, even if it means pandering.
So Trump hasn't come out with anything yet either. I mean, we haven't seen him go to Israel. At least Biden went there. He's been there twice. He sent the vessels. Mm-hmm. So he's shown support. Can you explain to me and our audience what yesterday's abstain decision, what does that practically mean? Because as I see it, Hamas is a terrorist organization, so they're not part of NATO. Now, part of this resolution was that that Israel has to have a ceasefire, and Hamas has to release the hostages. But there's no teeth in that because Hamas is not part of the UN. So what are they going to start sanctioning? What do you see happening here?
Suzanne, what you just said is what makes the Miller report so relevant, timely, and important. No teeth. You see this type of pandering from the UN and from world bodies the same way you do from presidential candidates, the same way you do from mayors. It's pandering. And what it means, in a nutshell, I mean, Netanyahu canceled his trip to Congress.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I think that he had to do something. He had to send a signal that this won't be tolerated. But I believe strongly that the United States should not be meddling, interfering in the politics of another country, certainly not as strong an ally as Israel has been. So no teeth in it. That's exactly what it is. This will all continue. How do you negotiate with people that will never really fulfill their obligation to the deal? How do you negotiate with them? That's the position that Israel is in.
When I say no teeth in it, Dominic, what I mean is there's no teeth for the terrorist side, for the Hamas side, because they're not bound by anything. Israel is.
Right.
So when I say no teeth, I mean that it can't stick, but Israel still can get sanctioned. They still need the money from the American government. So how is that going to play out?
Exactly what you just said. There's no accountability or responsibility on Hamas, and all the regulations fall on Israel. That's not fair. That's not fair. But Hamas has done this historically. Mm-hmm. And what, Suzanne, let's call it for what it is. There's public diplomacy and negotiation, and then there's private negotiations. And private negotiations with world leaders, certainly with a group like Hamas, is show me the Benjamins. How much money is being paid under the table? Under the table. The American people would never know about anything about this. And so I that's the point I was trying to make. It's not fair to Israel with all the rules that are in place for Israel, all the potential violations, and Hamas can just decide, boop, we're not agreeing. We're going to make sure that this female hostage is raped 5 times today. Come on,
and some of them
Suzanne.
are pregnant.
Yeah, right. I mean, think about that. That's wicked. You intentionally impregnate these women.
Yep.
You are, I don't want to use inflammatory language, but I have to be real. You are destroying the bloodline intentionally. Why?
So Dominic, tough question.
Okay.
If you were Netanyahu,
I do exactly what
would
he's
you
doing.
do right now?
I do exactly what he's doing.
And even with the abstain vote yesterday? And America not backing you?
Rafa and so on, he's got to do what he's got to do. The bottom line is this, Suzanne. Hamas has to go. There's no other way to put it. You can't leave 2 or 3 because that's 2 or 3 that's going to poison the rest of the community where you'll see the same uprising a couple of years from now. Hamas has to go. Period. There's no other way around it. America wouldn't tolerate a situation like that.
Wait, you're not Jewish, are you?
I'm not. I'm not.
Well,
but one of the greatest honors that I've had in my career, the Grand Rebbe, before he died, I was able to meet him, and I'm told that it's a huge honor if he gives you $2 instead of 1, and he gave me 2. And he said something to me about all of his people were standing around. And he said something about make sure you're fair in covering and reporting the news. And I said, nice. Thank you. And I didn't understand the importance of it until I run into members of the Hasidim nowadays. And they're like, oh, my God, you met the Grand Rebbe and so on.
Well, maybe that's where the good angel came from.
Maybe. You never know.
You never know.
Or maybe it was you.
Maybe it was me. Let's move on to another one of my favorite topics.
Okay.
Let's talk about Ukraine.
Okay.
Do you think that their ability to defend themselves now is at risk because the government has not passed this legislation to fund them?
Because America has not passed the legislation. Well, if you talk to Republicans, right, on Capitol Hill, how much is enough? And I think that's a fair question that's resonating with the American people. America has already invested billions in terms of building Ukraine up, building up the military. But at some point, and this is one of the reasons why Trump resonates so well, when Trump gets out there and goes, America first, who can disagree with that?
Well, that could also mean Israel, Dominic.
Meaning what?
America first, no funds anywhere. Only take care of our own.
Well, he did move the embassy to
that was
Jerusalem,
then.
Right? You're right. That was then, and this
that
is
was
now.
then. He's not exactly a friend of Netanyahu.
You're right. You're correct. You're correct. But with Ukraine, I think the American political establishment will keep the money going. I think that President Biden will find a way to convince Republicans. It's either the carrot or the stick. So you can find a way to dangle something that they want. Republicans want more policing at the border, more tightening at the border. There's a method to the madness. You can always find a way. But at some point, Suzanne, the question becomes how much with Ukraine is enough, period.
I think it comes down. Everybody talks about America first and the responsibility that we all have here, but we also want our currency to be the top.
Right.
So it trickles down. If you don't want to be first, you might not have the strongest dollar.
And you are so correct. And under normal circumstances, I would say, what is Suzanne talking about? But having traveled the world and witnessed the different currencies as it relates to the American dollar, you are 1,000% correct.
These are things that keep me up at night, Dominic. So do you
sound like a potential candidate for mayor.
Well, I'll do anything to fix this city. Do you think Putin is going to go after other countries?
Yes, unfortunately I think Putin is a serious threat. I think that anyone that rises up against him, oops, they had an accident, they fell out the window, oops, somehow they got poisoned. You know, I worry. I'm going to be honest with you here. That's one of the reasons why, on a personal level, I like Trump. Some will say that Putin played Trump like a fiddle, but I say when Trump was in office, Putin didn't act up. He didn't do the antics going into Ukraine, killing all these people. So that's one of the things, and that's one of the issues that Trump runs on now, that the world, not just America, that the world didn't have these problems when he was president. The fact of the matter is, Suzanne, and I've been doing politics, covering politics for 40 years. And in my field, when people see weakness, fast, they come at you. America is seen as weak, unfortunately, right now, around the world. Look at what's happening around the world.
Look at China today.
Look at China. They're flexing consistently. Look at Afghanistan. What happened in Afghanistan? Look at Russia. Look at Ukraine. And as the quote-unquote world policeman, it seems like America is always dragged into these situations when you also consider America's interest in everything. But you sound like a politician.
Well, you know, I've had a lot of careers. I'm like a cat. I have 9 lives, so you never know. Because I know I'm cautious about time here in WABC. Okay. I see these guys looking at me. But one of the things that really speaks to me, because I say this on every guest, my parents are Holocaust survivors, and this reminds me of the stories my parents told. Okay. And I see these demonstrations, and I see the pogroms, and I see swastikas, and I see all this going on. If you were in charge of New York today, how would you stop the hate?
I'm not the one to ask that question. I'm really not. I'm really not the person to ask that question, because First Amendment right or not, I would shut it down in a New York minute. NYPD commissioner, I am watching the 6 o'clock news right now. Explain to me why these protesters are doing whatever they want in my city. You got 30 seconds to explain it, or you're going to be looking for a job.
Will you run on the same ticket as me, Dominic?
Yeah, I'll be your vice president. I'll be your vice president. But see, Suzanne, I don't know if it would work, because you would call me into your office and you would say, "You said what to the press corps? You told them to kiss your
I'm born in Brooklyn. I got it. Don't you get the accent?
I'm not the one to ask about this, because it is ridiculous of what's being tolerated in the name of First Amendment. You have Jewish students at Columbia, and let's not even bring up Harvard, at Columbia, that are being attacked, that are suing now. And you know damn well, just like I know, if those were black kids being attacked, it would not be tolerated.
This is coming from an African-American man.
Yes.
This is amazing, guys. I want you all to listen to this.
But it's true. Did I just say something that's
not
true?
No, you're speaking my language.
If Black Lives Matter held a news conference at Columbia University, you think it would be tolerated for rocks to be thrown at them, or for all types of racial slurs to be said at them?
Do you know who stood up first for the George Floyd protests? It were the Jews.
Well, excuse me, Suzanne. You know who stood up in the civil rights movement?
Yeah.
The Jews.
Exactly.
The Jews that paid with their own. They died. Look at what happened. What it was, Mississippi. The three were killed and buried in dirt. And this is why I have a problem with lashing out at people, in particular, lashing out at the Jewish community. Young man, young lady, why don't you sit down and read history before responding with this knee-jerk
They don't
reaction?
even know what river or sea it is.
They don't know what anything means. All they know is what Black Lives Matter tells them, and that Israel and Jewish people are the enemy. But if you talk to anybody historically, going back, Suzanne, without Jewish people helping the NAACP, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. I probably damn sure wouldn't have the right to vote if not for Jewish people helping Black people, Jewish people dying with Black people for the rights of African Americans.
I think I'm in love with this guest.
But wait. So we're gonna do a Fonnie Willis with the district attorney.
Yeah,
and
we are. All right, let's move on to our city, our wonderful city that's been so good to me and my family and the people that work with me and for me. So the Miller Report is a political and real estate podcast. As you know, I'm sure you did a little work on this too.
I did. I noticed that, before you get to your question, I noticed that you have all the major newsmakers coming through here kissing your ring. I have noticed that.
Well, I've tried and
how is that?
I think that I will talk to anybody that wants to help New York, and they all come on the Miller Report.
Okay.
So that's very important to me. And when I was on Sid's show last week, we actually had a screaming match about it. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm done. I don't want to see the same homeless person. I'm like, Sid, this is still the city that we love. Then don't leave. You can't. People are leaving. They're not voting. Only 23% of the people voted in the last election. So you could cry about it or you could do something about it. And that's my mission. My mission is to get people to vote, be here. Crime and safety is obviously the first thing, most important, or people will leave. But Dominic, if you were in charge, and we know we have border issues, we've got migrants, but what would you do to keep people here and keep this city vibrant and the best city in the world?
I was the lead reporter on television against Rudy Giuliani. If Mr. Giuliani were here right now, he would tell you, Dominic gave me hell each and every day of my administration. And Dominic had the bully pulpit because he would stand up in the middle of the Blue Room at City Hall as one of the only Black reporters. And I would go toe-to-toe with him.
About what issues?
You name it. Police brutality, crime, racism. But guess what, Suzanne? 15 years later, 20 years later, Rudy Giuliani was correct. I was wrong. I was doing my job, but I was wrong. Rudy Giuliani loves New York, but the people couldn't see it. They didn't understand his methods. So, for example, when you turn a welfare center into a workfare center, do you understand the message that sends? And it's great. No more free rides. No more free rides. You're going to work. I'm going to teach you the dignity of earning a paycheck, right? It's very important. So if it was up to me, I would run the city like Rudy Giuliani. There are certain things that would never fly. Nowadays, they're laughing at all of us. We have police officers being killed. We have people pushed in front of trains. And you talk to Democrats and they go, problem? No problem. Great city.
There's a big difference today, Dominic. We've got 200,000 migrants in our city. So when the mayor tries to stop it, then he gets his phone seized. So how would you handle that?
I've been in politics a long time, Suzanne. You can't do revisionist history with me, meaning the mayor. The mayor wants you and everybody else to believe I had no choice. They were thrown on me. That's what he wants us to believe now. That's the current story. But the reality is the mayor, measuring the drapes at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, welcomed the migrants here. The mayor sent the message worldwide, come to New York.
I think you're talking to Curtis too much.
No. Curtis may be talking to me too much, but no, seriously, the mayor welcomed them here.
What does he do now, Dominic? What does he do now? We have this problem now. I'm saying we don't want everybody to leave.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
How? It's a federal government.
Meaning. Okay, the federal government. I'll see you in court. But until then, nobody else is welcomed. Shut it down. And debit cards. Are you out of your mind?
Plane tickets.
No. Plane tickets to get out of here. No debit cards.
They're going to vote soon.
We'll see, Suzanne.
Anyway, on that note, I pray for our city. I pray for the Jewish people and the people that are in Gaza. And thank you so much for coming on the Miller Report. This has been fantastic. And let's go celebrate when the city gets back. So
is it Madam Mayor or is it Madam President? What
it depends if you're going to be my vice.
It's been so great being here with you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much,
I love the Miller Report. It's fantastic. You are doing wonderful things in this city.
Thank you. And I've learned a lot from this, so I'm going to take it to my next guest. Okay. Stay tuned. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the Miller Report. How fun was that?
It was fun.
It was great.
You're very good. See, that's the key. If you can make people feel... So, like, for example, I've had the Hillary Clinton. That's deterrent. And you're not going to break her. But you smooth her over. You wear her down a little bit. So this is a true story. So her book had just came out. Then I'll shut up.
I love this. I love this. I want more.
Her book had just came out, and she mentions Monica Lewinsky. So I hate in the book. I hate meetings, right?
Meetings. Can we roll on this?
Yeah, sure. You can do it. Okay.
So you have one funny story for us? Well, so I'm learning from your past interviews. I said I'm a novice, and you're teaching me so much. Tell me the Hillary Clinton story.
Okay, so a few Hillary Clinton stories,
but you said I was good, so I want to hear that. Go back to that part. Roll it back.
But to break it down, so Hillary Clinton announces the trial balloon that she's interested in replacing Moynihan as a senator in New York. So next thing I know, I get an invitation to their last White House Christmas party. So I know what time it is. And I go to the White House, and then I saw Hillary Clinton again at the Democratic convention in Los Angeles, sat down and interviewed her. So she now releases a book in which she's trying to sensationalize Monica Lewinsky for sales, but doesn't want to answer any questions about Monica Lewinsky.
Wait. Why would Hillary Clinton want to promote Monica Lewinsky's book?
Because if you're trying to sell a book to a publisher, you've got to mention the stuff that's going to sell it the most.
Got it. Okay.
So if you want a large advance,
got it.
Nobody's interested in a book that's not going to mention Monica Lewinsky.
Got it.
We want to know, how does the wife feel about what the president of the United States was doing in the Oval Office with this young lady.
This is good stuff.
With cigars and where the cigars were going, okay? And so, and we all know where the cigars were going. But anyway, so I'm in a meeting, and I'm not a meetings guy, Suzanne. So the executives that are here in the room, there are people that do meetings. I'm not one of them. I'm the guy that you say, here's your assignment, go get it done. But if you ask me to sit in a meeting, I will bounce off the walls all day long, right? So they're like, listen, Hillary is doing her book tour. She wants to sit down with you. You got to find a way to make news. The name of the game is you got to make news so that your news organization is mentioned by all the other stations. Dominic, you got to make news. Dominic, you got to make news. I got you. Got to make news. So I'm talking to my producer, what do we do? And he goes, well, if you really want to make news, ask her about the affair, right? And so I said, I don't know.
She's going to walk out.
Yeah, I don't know. But see, you got to understand, in TV news, she's smart. She knows better than to walk out because that'll give me everything that I want. There's the instant world headline. Hillary, coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, Hillary Clinton walks out on an interview. Boom. There's a video where she goes, I've had enough. And she puts the mic down and storms out the room. No, that would give me everything that I want. So I'm sitting there and I say, you know what? I'm going to do it, John Wayne style. I'm like, I'm going to ask her about the affair. So I butter her up, Mrs. Clinton, and and I said, so now I'm counting down, and I'm like, and the producer's in the room, and I'm like, Mrs. Clinton, you write about Monica Lewinsky. Have you ever stepped out on your husband? Oh. But see, she's a professional politician. She answered the question. She didn't miss a beat, not one beat, smooth as can be. The interview ended.
What was her answer?
She said no. Essentially, she said no. And so the interview ends like 6 minutes late. She didn't miss a beat. She knows the camera's rolling more than I know the camera's rolling. The moment they said wrap, she jumped up in her seat. She said, standing over me, she said, how dare you? Right? Right? And so I'm like, Mrs. Clinton, it wasn't me. And I look at the producer, and so she knows we're playing a game now. Good cop, bad cop. She looks at the producer. The producer goes, it wasn't me. And so we're going back and forth. But let me tell you how smart she is, right? They are the smartest people in the world, the Clintons. So they knew that within 2 hours, that was going to be the question, whether or not she stepped out. So she calls a news conference right away. They're good. She plants a question with the report, the same question.
Wow.
So she takes my exclusive away from me. And that was her way of saying, you think you're slick? I'm slicker than you. And she beat me at my own game.
But you know who she didn't beat?
Who? Oh,
Donald Trump.
Yeah. And I was there that night when she lost. I mean, it was like, they were like, Hillary, she's going to win. And then all of a sudden, one by one, the energy, it was like somebody took a needle and just pop in the balloon. And then it became tears. And then Trump won. And then the next afternoon, they sent me to cover her news conference. And at that point, she was just like, I lost the election, and that's that.
And I don't think she ever really suffered. I don't think she ever got over that. And I think she's continuing to be behind the scenes.
She was that close to the White House.
Yep.
But you're going to do better. You're going to do better. Madam President.
Mayor S. Miller, here I come.